Welcome back, everyone. Well, today I need to deal with the brake caliper on this side. So if you notice, that is really tight. So the brake's holding far tighter than it should be. So down here, I'm going to take the tire off and get going on replacing this caliper and the brake line. So this is a 2005 Ram 2500. I do have a Dana 60 conversion kit here to get rid of the unit bearings, but the brakes are exactly the same. They haven't changed. So what we've got here, here's your caliper. These are pretty easy to remove. You got a pair of bolts here that go in from the back. So right up here, see if I can slide that in there around the brake line. There we go. So there's one, and the other one is right down here where my finger is. So you just take those two bolts off, and then you should be able to slide this out of here. Now the way this usually works is you kind of push up on it. I usually use a big screwdriver kind of down in here, pry it upward, and then you can usually fish the bottom out. Now this one's so tight that it's going to be a bit of a fight to get this out of here, but I think we're going to give it a try. Also, if you're just replacing the brake pads, you don't need to worry about the brake line, but here's where the brake line comes in. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this, and we'll see about taking this off. The other end of this brake line, it's relatively long, and this one has an attachment bolt right down here to hold it in place. See if I can show you what I'm looking at. So right down underneath the upper control arm over here. And then you've also got your upper connection up in here. So right there is where this needs to be disconnected if I'm going to replace it. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to do that just yet. I may go ahead and try to put this line back on, just because it is a bit of a pain to get that all off of there. So we'll see. I might put the new caliper on, put this line back in place, and see what happens. But I'm hoping whatever this is, it's not an issue with the anti-lock brake system. I am getting a brake light up in the cab, and hopefully it's not that it's trying to provide brake power when I don't really need it. But we'll keep going. Alright, there's the old caliper. So like I said, you just kind of pry it off of there, what it comes down to. So it's attached to this bracket right here. So all I needed to do was push the caliper up, and then I was able to pry the bottom out by kind of pushing against the bracket. Now it looks like this new one that I got comes with a new mounting bracket. I really don't need that. It's kind of cool that it's there, I suppose, but I'll probably be sending this back with it, because really, again, it's not necessary. So normally, if you were doing this just to change the brake pads, what you would do from here, you can just slide these right on out. See, just like that. So this one is in good enough condition I can continue to use it. Shouldn't be a problem. The other one looks the same when I take it off of there. So when you're putting these on, make sure you kind of slide them into position. Let's see if I can do this with you actually seeing it. Okay, so we're just going to kind of slide that down on there, like so. And up top here, we're just going to kind of line up. I wish this stayed on. I'm going to kind of line up right there and just slide this into position. Just like that. There we go. And there we go. Yep, looks good. Okay. So you can see this rotor is held on by the wheel. So by having this in this position, the rotor moves. But we're in place anyway, and that's what really matters the most. Let me make sure that that's actually going to line up the way I want it to down here. So when it comes time to put a new caliper on, or if you put new brake pads on, obviously your pistons here are going to extend out into this space as you use up your brakes. So you're going to need to make sure that these are fully retracted back into position. Now this one's brand new, and it looks like they are fully retracted. For the older brakes like this one, so this one doesn't have the rotating cylinder or piston that some of the newer ones do. Obviously, if you've got a newer vehicle, you're going to want to make sure you know exactly how to retract your brakes if you're going to do this on your own. This one is really easy. This is back in the day when all you had to have was a C-clamp and a piece of steel. So all I do if I'm going to retract these, I just get a piece of 1/4 inch flat bar that's long enough to go across both pistons. I then put a C-clamp here in the middle over the back of the housing here and over that piece of metal in the front, and I just work the clamp, and it pushes these back by pushing fluid back into the system. That way you don't have to re-bleed your brakes. Now you do need to be somewhat careful if you've been using it for a while and yeah, maybe you added a little bit of brake fluid up top. As you push these back in, obviously that fluid has to go somewhere, so it's going to go back into your reservoir up top. So you may want to take a look at that and make sure you're not over full, or that it's going to potentially leak when you do this. Obviously brake fluid is really corrosive and eats paint really well. So what we're going to do here, I took the bolts off, I took the bracket off. I'm just going to take this guy and fit this up into position up here. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like, and we'll get it on. Alright, we've got everything tightened up and I've got the line reconnected. Again, when you do this, make sure that you put a copper washer on both sides of the brake line. So we're ready to bleed the brakes. I'm going to go ahead and use my vacuum bleeder for this. So all we need to do, figure out what size this bleeder is. It should be 5/16. Take this cap off. Come on, there we go. And I'm going to put the fitting on from the vacuum bleeder on here. That allows me to do all my work from down here without having to pump the brakes. So everything should work out pretty nicely because everything else in the system is bled. So we're all ready to go. Once that's set up, I should be able to apply some pressure to it, get the pads reset. I went ahead and reused the pads that I had because they were in good condition and they're not overheated. Obviously, if you're swapping out a caliper, sometimes it's better to go ahead and swap your brake pads at the same time. Definitely, if you're going to be swapping a rotor, it's recommended that you swap the pads at the same time you do a rotor. But mine is still in good condition, got plenty of metal on it. I do like wiping these down with brake cleaner just to make sure that none of my finger oil or anything else that might have ended up on there is going to cause any trouble with my stopping power. So let's see what we got. Okay, we're all hooked up. So as it turns out, this is a 10mm on this one. I'm not sure if that's original. I seem to remember these used to be SAE, so maybe this is an aftermarket part or something. But I'm hooked up to the vacuum cylinder down here. Got my air line in place. I'm going to operate the valve here. And first step, turn this about a quarter turn. There we go. Okay, we're open. Now we're just going to watch this for fluid coming out. Okay, I think I'm going to go up and pump the brakes a couple of times. Maybe this is why I couldn't get the 5 tons brakes bled. Alright, I definitely found my problem. So, I took the old brake line off. Right up here, you can see where the hard line is that it connects to. That's right in that position there. And then obviously the line kind of slides up through here and has a keeper clip that goes over the top. So you're going to have to grab that keeper clip with a pair of vice grips and just kind of work it out of there. Now once that's out, the thing comes right out. And down here I just used an impact to take that out of there since it had never been out before, and it came out just fine. I also went inside and sprayed some brake fluid out with by pushing on the pedal, and it came out no problem. So the hard line is okay. So that tells me that yes, as expected, this soft line was my problem. It was the one that was keeping me from being able to bleed the brakes this time. And I think also it was the one that was actually holding pressure on this caliper. So I think somehow something broke loose inside that line and was keeping pressure on the downstream side, which was allowing this to overheat. So got a new line, let's put it in. Alright, and I think we're there. So there's the new line, we're reconnected up top. I went ahead and put the mounting bracket back in here to hold it in place. We've got these little clips that hold the anti-lock signal wire in place so it doesn't get caught on anything. So we're all in position. We're tight down here, and I'm hooked up and ready to bleed. Let's see what happens this time around, shall we? In fact, before I do this, because I know this is going to work, I'm going to go up and check the master cylinder and make sure I've got enough fluid in it. Okay, master cylinder is full. Let's go ahead and make sure we're loose down here. There we go. Alright, and let's see what we got. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pump the brakes a little bit. Okay, well that worked. So you can see we got fluid in this line. Some air bubbles. Alright, we are bled. Plenty of fluid in here, so I went ahead and just kind of tightened this up finger tight. And take that off of there and hit it with a wrench. Get that bleeder screw nice and tight, put the cover back on it, and I think we're ready to put the tire back on.